Well, good morning. Thought my computer had locked up and I could not access this window. So anyway, it is good to have each one of you here this morning. Appreciate you being on, and I hope you've had a good night. We were able to get Rebecca to the airport, and she is already, in fact, just a few minutes ago, landed in Chicago, and then she'll be there for a little while, and then she'll fly on to Green Bay, and so home from there should be landing in Green Bay somewhere around 10:30 or so our time, and so had a good visit with her. Thankful that the Lord worked out those details. Very unexpected for me, but was glad that it was able to work out. We had a great time with them, and so Kids Zone went on last night, and appreciate those who are a part of that, and those who are willing to do that program, and just want to continue to pray the Lord is honored in that. We'll be in Psalm number 90 tonight at church. Hope you're able to join us for that as well, and should be a good service, and and looking forward to that time together. Let's go to the book of First John, chapter number 2, and in this particular text, we're reminded of some things that time oftentimes will reveal the true person or the true reality of someone. Maybe you've heard the saying that give enough rope, that person will hang himself. Essentially, what we're acknowledging is that after the passing of time, things will really become apparent, and things are going to become much more clear. And that's what we discover here in this text. There's also a lot that is said in our day and age about the last days and so forth. And John, writing in the first century, towards the end of the first century, in my opinion, but John is writing and he says, okay, listen, it is the last time. He mentions this in verse 18. This is going to be a theme that is going to continue to be developed throughout the letter of First John as well. Point that I want us to see is that this is not something new. We're not living in a time frame that is unprecedented and so forth. Now, for us living here in America, we might argue that our country has never been in the position that it is now. May or may not be able to be substantiated historically, but you certainly cannot say that the world has never been this way. I think if you were to look back at world history, there have been a lot of very tumultuous periods of history. And so, yes, there are a lot of things, but there are a lot of realities that are characteristic of what we describe as the last days. And so he begins in verse number 18, and he says, little children, here's a term that is used for endearment. It's a term that reminds these individuals of who they are and their relationship to him. Little children, he says, it is the last time. In other words, we are living in these last days, and even back then, when they were living then, they were saying, okay, it is the last time. That word time sometimes is translated hour as well. The point that it's saying is, okay, we're living in this final period. Now, what is next? I believe the next stage is going to be the rapture, followed by the tribulation, followed by the millennium. And so we are living here in this stage after the ascension of Christ, but before the return of Christ. And we are living in this stage that is called the last time or the last days. And as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. Now, the first Antichrist that he is referencing is the ultimate Antichrist that is revealed for us in the book of Revelation. He is going to come onto the scene during the tribulation in the first 3.5 years, going to make all of these promises, and then in the final 3.5 years, he's going to break those promises, and that is going to usher in the Great Tribulation, and going to be a period of tribulation like the world has never seen. So the Bible speaks extensively about that individual. John points out, however, that in the time in which we live, there are many antichrists. So now we go from one antichrist, the antichrist, to now antichrists, plural. These are individuals who are in opposition to Christ. Of course, we know that the antichrist is clearly in opposition to Christ, but these individuals are the ones that are opposed to him, and they are going throughout the world, and they are reality wreaking havoc on things. Okay, he says, whereby or by this we know that it is the last time. In other words, the fact that these individuals are there are evidence of the times in which we live. Okay, so you and I living today experience this very same reality. The reality is that there are lots of people that may seem to sound good and may seem to even provide some sort of a positive message, but there's a reality about them and about their character and who they are that says, okay, these individuals are actually in opposition to Christ. Now, we do not know the exact nature of those to whom John was writing against, but it's clear that John was writing against some false teachers. And we can pick up some of their different elements. I think that there are some early stages probably of a heresy that ends up developing within about another 100 years or so. But regardless, it doesn't matter per se, because what John is doing is he's writing to these believers to ensure that they stay on the right track. And they've got to exercise this level of discernment. And he goes on and he explains in verse 19 that they went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us, but they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us. So, in other words, he says, okay, they went out from us. And the implication with that is that at one point in time, they were within them, they were a part of that group. But at some point in time, and what prompted that, we're never told, but at some point in time, they went out from within us. But, he says, they were not of us. Even though they were within us, they were not characterized by who we are. They were there, but they really didn't belong there. Maybe they sang a great song and maybe they had quite the nice tune to their life for a while. But after time revealed where they were spiritually, and there was this reality that they were not of us. And John explains, for if they had been of us, if they had truly been truly a part of us, they would not have ever left. They would no doubt have continued with us. They would have remained, but they didn't. They went out. And so, because they went out, that action demonstrates that they were not all of us. It might be made manifest or it might be made known that these individuals were not all of us. It would become revealed, it would become public knowledge that they left us, but the reason they left us was in reality they were not of us. What a sobering reminder for us here living even today, because there's a reality of people that are all around us, that in our area especially, that claim to be religious. They claim to have this relationship. They claim to go to church. They claim to believe God. They claim all these things, but what about their reality? Who are these individuals truly, and what does their life truly reflect? Well, it obviously brings us to another point of application. That is this: what does our life reflect? What does our life reflect about the nature of who God is and our belief in Him and our dedication to Him? Let's be sure that we have our priorities where they need to be. Let's be sure that our focus is what it needs to be, that we're striving to live a godly life, as difficult as it oftentimes is, but then also recognize over time, people are going to reveal the nature of who they truly are. Let's be sure that what is revealed in our lives is something that is going to bring honor and glory to the Lord. Well, I appreciate each one of you being on here this morning. I hope you have a good day today. I hope to see you tonight. Again, we will be in Psalm number 90 tonight, finishing that up, Lord willing. Great psalm, great text for us, and should be a good time. I appreciate you being here. Lord willing, I'll see you back here either tonight or here in the morning. Take care. God bless.